Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a discussion on social engineering. My name is Sherry Branson, and I'm your host. I'm now joined by Kevin Davis, the president of Kevin Davis Insurance. Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you?
Hey Sherry, how you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, awesome. Great. Well, Kevin, we have a great webinar today about social engineering. I know a lot of people are wondering about it. It's something relatively new that we're offering. And now we're automatically adding it to the crime policy, which is a great feature. And I did want to mention that we have a chat box on the screen. So if anybody has any questions about what we go over today, please either type your question into the chat box and we can answer you during the webinar or get in touch with you later on. Or you can send me an email, and my email address is sbranson@kdins.com. Now, Kevin, what is our goal today in today's webinar?
Yeah, today what we want to do is kind of have a discussion about back and forth from you and I about what social engineering is, what's it about, why are we doing these things, because right now there's a lot of confusion out there and people kind of don't understand it, so they're kind of ignoring it. So this is a chance to really get into it and to really talk about it. So that's what you and I are going to do, and hopefully by the time we're done, people will say, okay, I get it. So that's kind of my goal.
Okay, great. To educate people and help them understand it a little bit better, because there's lots of new cyber, social engineering, and et cetera stuff going on. And I did want to mention one last thing. I also put recordings of all of our webinars on our website, our homepage. So if you guys would like to listen to it again, or if somebody in your office couldn't make it today, they can go to our website, to our homepage, and there's a webinars link. You just click on it and you can listen to the webinar again. Great. And now, Kevin, what exactly, can you explain to everybody joining us today, what is social engineering?
Okay. From our point of view, we talk about condominiums, and you live in a homeowner association, right?
Yes.
Right. What if you go to your pool and you find out that the treasurer of your community association was tricked into sending $5,000 to someone pretending to be the landscaper? And that landscaper offered that person, your treasurer, a 25% off if you paid in advance.
Okay. So that would not be good if they were tricked into sending that money. That's a lot of money to lose from reserve account.
And again, that's what social engineering is. Tricking someone into giving them information so they can either get access to information or access to funds.
Okay. And it's voluntarily giving them the information. The treasurer gives it voluntarily because they think it's authentic.
Exactly. If you look at a hacker, okay, a hacker uses knowledge and experience to gain access to that computer system, either via a virus or some other way, okay? But now, all of a sudden, we talk about something a little bit different. The social engineering itself, there are hackers whose jobs do one thing, exploit the one weakness that's found in each and every organization out there, and that happens to be us, humans.
Oh, okay, people, yeah. That's right. If you have a lot of protections in place, like firewalls and antivirus software, if they can't get into the computer, they can get through the employees.
Yeah, reality is this: we are the weakest link in the security chain. Look, we have locks on our windows, we have alarm systems, we have dogs, we have all those things. The problem is when that pizza delivery guy knocks on the front door, okay, and you let him in without finding out if he had a pizza in his hand or not, but you let him in anyway, now you're completely exposed.
Mm-hmm.
You see, Sherry, social engineering is different than regular hacking because hacking has access to your confidential information with your permission.
Ah, okay, with your permission. Okay, that makes a big difference. They're not sneaking in without you being aware of it. You're actually handing over the information. You're being tricked into handing it over, basically.
That's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
And now, if anybody has any questions, I just want to give my email address out one more time. It's sbranson@kdins.com, and there's a chat box on the right-hand side of the screen, or you could send me the question in an email. And now, can you explain, everybody joining us today, works in the community association industry. So can you explain how is social engineering affecting community associations?
Okay, and that's why, again, what we're talking about here is the business that we're in. And we're in the community association industry. And the problem is this: anybody with a computer and an internet connection, that's all you need to operate business today. And we all use the internet these days. And the internet provides a quick, easy, efficient way of accessing large amount of information about individuals who live in your association.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about small businesses like community association or management companies or landscapers or contractors. They're very vulnerable social engineering claims because they usually offer easy access to things like email addresses, bank information, credit card, employee payroll files, all this information. Because most small businesses don't keep access logs, don't have firewalls, don't have protection they need, and information is stolen. And guess what? Once it's stolen, they have no idea it probably even stolen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because they thought it was real. They thought that the email to transfer the money or to pay the invoice or whatever was authentic. And
And that
Kevin,
makes them prime targets for this kind of social engineering.
mm-hmm. And Kevin, the other thing that comes to mind is the fact that the board members, they're volunteers, and when they're on the board, they're not, looking at it as a big business. They're looking at it as kind of a social club. They're looking to volunteer their time to be helpful to their HOA or their condo association. So basically, they're not realizing the implications of being a board member.
And that's the point. They treat it like it's a social club. And it's not. It's a major corporation. I mean, just think about it. If you have a 100-unit condominium complex and the average value is $100,000, the association is managing a $10 million corporation.
So that's a huge responsibility on their shoulders.
Yeah, but they don't treat it that way at all. No.
No.
And another problem you have is that you have former employees and former volunteers who have the ability to hack into networks and computer systems by using outdated old passwords.
Okay, that happens quite a bit when people leave. They take the passwords with them. And a lot of companies or organizations are not changing their passwords.
Yeah, and just think the person left because they're angry or disgruntled because of the way they were treated. All of a sudden, they have access to all that information, all that data.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why we talk about cybercrime or social engineering. That's why it's so important now. When we talk about community associations, they are small businesses. But people forget that they're a business.
They are actually a business. And a lot of these social engineers, associations may not have a large IT department or people protecting the information the way it should be protected. So these social engineers are following the path of least resistance, basically. They're vulnerable, right, Kevin?
Yeah, exactly. That's how that works.
Mm-hmm. And now, when you talk about social engineering and the claims that are happening, how are they occurring, basically?
Okay. The easiest and most straightforward way is directly ask someone for the information. They usually do this by email or by a phone call. They do this by pretending to be someone in management, tech support, or even a friend. It's as simple as an employee responding to an email by someone pretending to be a vendor or client, like I said, the landscaper. The imposter requests that they send a payment or a refund to the address on the email, and the funds are sent an impersonator, usually by wire transfer. And again, by the time it's discovered, it's usually too late to recover the funds.
Mm-hmm. And this brings to mind, Kevin, I just attended a trade show in Florida a couple of months ago, and two board members came up to me and told me they took our information about social engineering and said that the month before, somebody had hacked into her email, sent an email to their bank saying that she wanted to purchase a $10,000 painting and that the bank should wire the money. But it was all fraudulent. The bank thought that was very odd that she'd buy a $10,000 painting, so they called her and she said, no, that wasn't me. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's interesting because right now one of the most effective social engineering scams when someone in management receives a fraudulent email from someone pretending to be either CEO or the president of the company, informing them the company right now is involved in a major transaction and needs money immediately. So the money is sent to the imposter, and the company is now out of thousands of dollars.
Wow. And of course, when your boss, the CEO or the CFO asks you to do a transfer or send money, most people do it. They just think it's, yeah.
Yeah, and they have to. I mean, it's not even, you don't even question it. And if your boss is the kind of person who does those things all the time, it's not a big deal to say, okay, sure, we understand, and send the money.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And now, Kevin, what is the most common type of attack?
Okay, the most common right now is phishing. And we all get phishing emails. Those are the ones that says we're late for our Verizon payment or our credit card from Citibank or Bank of America has been compromised. You get these emails, and all they do is want to trick you into saying, okay, here's my new password, here's my new information. That's what they do. Phishing right now is the most effective way out there because they send tons of those things out. And all you do is take that one person, click on it, and provide them with the information they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Credit card accounts, bank information, passwords, anything they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. I get them all the time asking me to change my password on my account, all the time. And phishing, Kevin, it's not F-I-S-H-I-N-G. It's, how is it? No.
Yeah, that's a good type of phishing. You know?
That's the fun kind of phishing.
That's the fun kind, yes.
Absolutely. And if anybody has any questions, again, about what we're going over, we're happy to answer your questions. Please type them in the chat box or send me an email to sbranson@kdins.com, and we'll give you a call or we'll answer it during the webinar if we have time. And now, Kevin, is there an effective way to fully protect against social engineering attacks?
Okay. Right now, the answer is no. For the simple reason that no matter what controls are in place, we, as human beings, can be tricked.
Well, I can't be tricked, Kevin.
Okay. All right. We all remember you have proof now. This will stay in right. This will stay in forever. Now, however, for those of us who can be tricked, this is how certain things that you have to do to lessen the likelihood of you being tricked.
Okay. Okay.
Number one, do not open any emails from untrusted sources. So be sure to contact a friend or family member or an employee in person or via phone call if you ever receive an email message that you feel uncomfortable with.
Okay.
Number two, do not offer from strangers the benefit of the doubt. We as humans love to give people the benefit of the doubt. The reality is, if it's too good to be true, it usually is too good to be true.
Oh, okay. So that $10 million email is probably too good to be true.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Lock your laptop and use passwords. You'd be surprised how many people out there still have laptops are not password protected. Use passwords.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, so these are very important tips.
Purchase antivirus software. Read your company's privacy policy and understand it. If your company doesn't have a privacy policy, get one as soon as you can.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Kevin, once these controls are in place and you're doing all this, it's really important to do regular reviews of it, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it doesn't do you any good to have all these privacy policies in place and everybody ignores them. So you have to review them, and you have to make sure they're up to date because things are changing rapidly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Great. Well, that's some really good information right there. I mean, there's no foolproof way of like you said, human beings will make mistakes, but at least if you put these protections in place, it should help prevent it happening, hopefully. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And now, Kevin, we're adding it automatically to the crime policy. Mm-hmm. So obviously, this is a very important coverage.
Yeah, as I just said, there is no way to really protect yourself from being tricked, except for you, Sherry. You can.
Of course, yeah.
Because right now, social engineering fraud is the easiest way to gain access to the computer system. And as claims continue, and more people are finding out the hard way that there's no coverage out there exists, or they incorrectly believe that coverage provided under the computer crime section or employee designing section of the crime policy, and it doesn't.
Okay, so they're assuming they have this coverage is what you're saying.
Yeah, and because the crime policy itself, you got to remember this, that is designed to provide the insured with coverage for the theft of funds. So the crime policy provides coverage for theft of funds. However, the key to crime coverage is the insured must be unaware of what's happening and not an active participant. What makes social engineering fraud coverage important that the employee ends up being an active participant in the scam led to the theft of funds.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the big distinction between the two.
Yep, that's it. Yep. Yeah, there's no knowledge right now. If you, as my employee, are stealing funds and have no idea what's going on, is one thing. But if you are tricking me into giving you money, then I'm now an active participant in it. And historically, losses of this nature has been denied under exclusion R of our crime policy.
Okay, exclusion R. Can you explain to everybody what exclusion R is, Kevin?
Sure. Exclusion R under our crime policy, and exclusion, there's exclusion like this in every crime policy. It pretty much says that the crime policy will not apply to any loss from the giving or surrendering of money, security, or other property in exchange of purchase, whether or not fraudulent. Okay?
Okay.
So the key words there are giving or surrender of money.
Okay. So that's the difference. You're handing it over, not realizing you're being tricked, but you're participating in it and you're surrendering the money. Okay.
That's it.
And now this is covered under social engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now can you explain what is social engineering fraud coverage, Kevin?
Okay. So exclusion R takes away the surrendering and giving of money. What social engineering fraud coverage does, it expands the crime insurance policy to protect employees from people who pretend to be vendors, employees, and clients for a loss from the transferring, paying, or delivering funds directly caused by social engineering fraud.
Okay, well, that's a lot of information. Okay. That's a lot.
All right, so social engineering fraud, 4 things have to happen, okay, for a loss to occur. Number 1, a social engineering fraud has to happen, okay? And social engineering fraud means the intentional misleading of an employee through the use of written instructions.
Okay.
Okay? So you get an email, hey, guess what? We want to do this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, has to be a person pretending to be a vendor, client, or employee.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Number 3, funds have to be missing from the transferring, paying, or delivering of funds to a fictitious account. Again, it goes back to surrendering or giving money. Okay? So you have to surrender or giving money. So that's number 3.
Okay.
Number 4 is that an employee must be convinced that a request to send money is from a legitimate source and the real person never receives the money.
Okay. Okay.
Okay? Now, number 4 is interesting because it's there for a reason. If an employee is not convinced, then they're in collusion. And then and now you have an employee dishonesty. So those 4 things have to be there in order for there to be a social engineering claim.
Okay, so those are very important points.
Social engineering fraud, the person has to be pretending to be a vendor, client, or employee, and you have to be paying, delivering funds to a fictitious account, and an employee must have no idea that it's fraudulent.
Okay. Okay.
Okay?
If anybody has any questions about what we just went over, please send an email to sbranson@kdins.com or type your question into the chat box and we will get back to you. Now, Kevin, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, why is this not covered in cyber coverage?
Okay. And cyber coverage is designed to cover specific costs dealing with data breach. When we talk about cyber coverage, it is always involving data breach, meaning that it includes fines and penalties associated with the breach. It covers to hire a public relations firm to rebuild a company after a data breach, or to provide defense if the insured is sued because of the way the data breach was handled. It is all about the data breach.
All about the data breach. Okay, for the people joining us today, Kevin, could you define what is data breach?
Sure. A data breach is acquiring of personal identifiable information. That is your name plus a driver's license, social security number, credit card number, banking number, anything is personal to them. That's personal identifiable information that's unauthorized and compromise security and confidentiality of that information.
Okay.
So that's what a data breach is.
Okay.
Okay? Now, so when we talk about cyber coverage, we're talking about data breach. When talking about the crime policy, it's more about the loss of funds, not the loss of data. Social engineering fraud pays for the loss from the transferring, paying, and delivering funds caused by social engineering fraud. There are some coverages out there that does have some crime insurance coverage in it, some cyber policies, but all of them exclude the giving or surrendering of money.
Okay, so that's the distinction between the two. And again, if anybody has any questions, please send an email to sbranson@kdins.com. And now, Kevin, Speaking of social engineering, I'm thinking, the property managers. I'm sure everybody's wondering who's joining us today. Are the property managers covered under this?
And yes, we amended the definition of employee under our crime policy to add them as employees.
Okay. Now, what about, what I'm wondering is, shouldn't they have their own coverage, though?
Yes, they should have their own coverage. The problem is most of them don't. And what we want to do is make sure that funds of the association are protected. And the best way to do that is to make sure we add them as employees to the association.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
Okay? All right, let me give you an example. We have a property manager who's doing business with a homeowner association for a number of years and has a landscaper that he sends a payment every month. The property manager receives notification from that landscaper that the company has changed banks. The property manager sends a notification to accounting, who now updates the system. After sending several payments to the new bank, the property manager is made aware by the landscaper that they have not received payment in several months. He later discovers that the landscaper's email system has been hacked and payments were never received.
Okay. So
Okay?
this is not good news. This is not good news for the association, right, Kevin?
Exactly, because the association is ultimately responsible for the loss, even though the match company is the one who made a mistake by paying the wrong company, paying the wrong person, or an imposter pretending to be the landscaper.
Right, right. And this happens all the time. I mean, property managers are handling the bills. They're handling making payments to vendors, etc. So this goes on every day at every association out there.
More and more and more.
They're turning over more and more of the financial transactions to the property managers. They're handling all the money.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, Kevin, can somebody purchase social engineering coverage all by itself?
Okay. No. Social engineering fraud is an endorsement to the crime policy, and you must also have computer theft, computer fraud coverage, and funds transfer fraud coverage. They both have to be purchased. You have to have all three of those coverages.
Okay, so now we're getting, this is a lot of coverage here. So why do you have to purchase all three, Kevin?
Okay. Well, our goal is to do one thing: provide necessary protection against cyber attacks for the loss of funds. And in order to do that, you need to have computer fraud, funds transfer, and social engineering coverage. You have to have all three of those together.
Okay. Now, what happens if I don't want the coverage, though, Kevin? The social engineering, I mean.
If you don't want social engineering coverage, what we are doing is adding a social engineering fraud exclusion endorsement. The purpose of the endorsement is to specifically exclude social engineering fraud. So if they don't want it, if your insured doesn't want it, that exclusion will be on the policy.
Okay. Now, why is that, Kevin?
Okay. The reason is that we want to eliminate any confusion out there. Right now, people believe there is coverage for it. Once they see that endorsement, they realize that there's no coverage at all under the policy. And they want that coverage removed. They want that endorsement removed, so they want to add it in there. So that's their best way right now. We can really give the kind of coverage they really need.
Absolutely. Okay. And now we talked a little bit about a couple minutes ago about the computer fraud, funds transfer fraud, and then the social engineering, which can get a little bit confusing. Can you explain, what's the difference between the wire transfer fraud, but computer fraud coverage, and how does that compare to social engineering?
Okay. When you talk about funds transfer fraud, it's when someone fraudulently transmits instructions to a bank or a financial institution directing them to transfer funds from an insured's bank account to someone other than the insured without the insured's knowledge or consent.
Okay, so somebody sends me an email to transfer money, and I transfer the money, and then that's what that is what you're saying.
Well, no. Okay, what happens is that once you transfer money, then you are involved in it. You have knowledge and consent. So what happens is that I send you an email, okay? It's from a fictitious Kevin Davis. You open it up, you click on the link, and that link contains a virus that has your ID and your password on it. So once I get access to that ID and password, I immediately send a wire instruction in your name to send money to my bank.
Gotcha. So you're getting access to my account or wire, information, and you're doing the transfer. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without your knowledge and consent.
Right.
Okay. Now, computer fraud is the use of computer to fraudulently cause a transfer from inside your premises. Again, without the organization's knowledge or consent.
Okay, so an example of that would be, Kevin, I leave my laptop on, I go to lunch, and somebody gets into my computer, right?
Exactly. And what happens is you'll find out usually somebody will come in masquerading as an exterminator or a janitor or UPS guy, and they will do is put a thumb drive in one of your computers to get information out of it. I mean, as simple as that. Once they're on the premises, that is a computer fraud situation.
Okay, so that's like an inside job, so to speak.
Exactly. Now, we talked about those two coverages. The difference between those two coverages and social engineering fraud is this. When talking about computer fraud and funds transfer, the insurance funds are transferred without the insured's knowledge or consent. That's the key word. Without the insured knowledge or consent, you have no idea what you're doing. And social engineering fraud, an employee of the organization is an active participant in the theft.
But they don't know it's a theft, but they're an active participant.
But they're involved in it. They are the ones surrendering or giving money to somebody else.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's a very
one's without the insured knowledge consent, one is with the insured knowledge and consent.
But they're being tricked into knowledge and
okay. Exactly.
Okay. Great. So that gets a little confusing, so if you guys have any questions about the distinctions between the three coverages, please send us your questions in an email or put them in the chat box. And now, Kevin, let's see, we talked about the differences in the different coverages. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to that, or you think we covered
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I think we went through the coverages. I think we got it. We nailed it. And again, the goal there is to talk about the coverages, to give you enough so you're comfortable when it comes out on your crime policy. You say, I understand the coverages.
Right. Exactly. You know exactly what they are. Okay. And now back to the social engineering, Kevin. Now, what is the retention amount for this endorsement?
Okay, retention is 5% of the limit, of the social engineering limit. So if you have a $100,000 limit, then the deductible is about retention is $5,000.
$5,000, okay. And is an application required for this $100,000 limit?
Okay, $100,000 or less, there's no application underwriting information required. Up to $100,000, we're all set. And that's why we're adding it automatically up to that limited amount.
Okay.
100.
Okay. Now, if somebody wanted over $100,000, could they get it?
Oh, sure. I think we have highs like $10 million, but it requires underwriting and a full application.
And a full application. Okay, so less than $100,000, we just automatically add it. And over $100,000, it would need an application and underwriting. Okay. And Kevin, what about the premium for this coverage?
Sure. The premium for $100,000 is like $50, $60, so it's pretty inexpensive.
Very affordable, inexpensive.
And that's the key to the whole coverage. We're looking at something that's pretty reasonably priced, $50, $60. You get $100,000 of coverage. Okay, it's something that's not anybody is aware of right now. But boy, when that claims comes down, we want to make sure the coverage is provided, so we're automatically doing it right now. We're probably the only people out there that are automatically including the coverage if there's anybody else out there even providing the coverage at all. So it's something right now that's very important to community associations out there because it is unique coverage that's not regularly provided by most of our competitors out there.
Okay, great. And I did want to mention one more thing. I do have a copy of the social engineering fraud endorsement. If anybody would like a copy of the endorsement, please send me an email to sbranson@kdins.com. Happy to send you a copy of it. You can read it over. If you have any other questions, send me an email back or call me. And again, send your emails with questions after the webinar. And if you'd like to listen to today's webinar again, go to our website, which is kdisonline.com, and click on the webinar link, and you can listen to today's webinar. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for a great webinar. Thanks for lots of great information, and thanks everybody for joining us. And have a great afternoon. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Take care.